Okay, so obviously Sarah will join us, and she's just sorry she can't be here right now, and she's the lead consultant in Ireland for the Elevating Women in Leadership programme. I am a senior executive coach with LHH and delighted to be here today to take you through this. Okay, so we're often asked why we have development programs specifically for women in leadership. Well, all the research and data tells us that women just face a huge amount of headwinds to progressing their careers at a more senior level in organizations. It can be a slower and a harder journey than it is for our male counterparts in a variety of ways and for a variety of different reasons. So our Elevating Women in Leadership program is about focusing on those specific areas that are particularly relevant to women to enable them to thrive on a career path and to try and find the time to give themselves to do that, whatever they chose to be. Equity is all about providing additional support where it's needed to create a level playing field for everyone. And so this kind of a program is in addition to other leadership programs that you might participate in with senior leadership teams or with senior management teams. We're offering 4 taster sessions where we share what the program is about, and it's as much personal development as we can kind of give you in the next 50 minutes or so. There's a worksheet posted in the chat afterwards for you to use, and we're not sharing the slides, but the points that we cover are in the worksheet. So for those joining for your own development, do find a buddy somewhere that you can share what you are doing, what we talk about. Even better would be to get a group together in work. Oh, I can see Sarah you're joined us. Sarah, you're with us?
Yeah, I'm with you now. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to share my slides and I'll start talking us through. So that's amazing. Thank you so much.
So we'd literally just
checking you can see my slides.
Perfect, Sarah. And we'd literally just progressed to the 3rd one.
Amazing.
In absence, and we were on to, yeah, literally that's exactly where we are. So that's perfect to go. There we are to go from there.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Vicky. That's amazing. So thank you, Vicky, for joining me. I do really, really appreciate it. So this workshop is really giving us an overview of the confidence and resilience workshop. Sorry, the session is giving us an overview of the confidence and resilience workshop. We aim to give you as much personal development as we can within the next 50 minutes or so. You will have received a worksheet, and on this worksheet are the main points covered in this session. We're not going to be sharing slides, but all the main points will be in the worksheet. If you're joining us because of individual support, you want to join this for your own personal development, we would recommend that you get a buddy, or even you find people that you can bring together and set up some kind of a development group that you share your learnings from today and what came up for you. And today's session isn't in our regular e-learning format, in our regular virtual format. However, we will be using the chat and polls. We just won't be using breakouts and whiteboards. So after our career activism workshop, you will have a discovery session, and it's a 2-hour session. And I just want to tell you a little about that session. So that session is a small group where we have 8 to 10 people in the group. We use it to share successes and progresses from the last meeting. So I know it's only been a week, but if you do have any successes from the last webinar, if you tried out any hints or tips that you got, please do share them in the chat. We'd be delighted to hear them from you. And these discovery sessions, they're also an opportunity for people to share specific personal challenges and get support from the group. So we use a variety of facilitation and coaching tools to help people to find solutions and to move them forward. We created a facilitation guide, which is sharing one of the most popular ways of doing this, and you will receive this afterwards if you wish. And it's a simple method that seems to be most popular with our participants, who find it easy to pick this up and continue and to run it themselves when the program is finished. As mentioned, today we are going to be talking about strengthening confidence and resilience. So this workshop is aimed at looking at confidence and building confidence through strength. So our LHH research study found that women who accelerate in their careers, are really successful in their careers, really have high confidence, and they don't let self-doubt get in the way. And that's one of the things that can get in the way of our acceleration, our career acceleration. We also talk about resilience and energy, and women have multiple demands on their energy from home, work, and what it's really about is learning how to manage our energy effectively. So we're not striving to be superwoman, because we often try to be superwomen, and it's not fair. We're being very hard on ourselves. We often have as well limiting beliefs and mindsets, and that can undermine our resilience. As mentioned, sometimes we can be quite hard on ourselves, and it's really how can we actually move those mindsets into more positive. So welcome back. You may have been with us at our session last week. We're delighted that you joined us again today. And we'd love to hear from you all and try and get you involved in the session. So just to start us off, as we will be talking about energy as part of the session, just to start us off, can you comment just in the chat how you're feeling today out of 1 to 5? So this is just an energy battery. How are you doing today? Midweek, Wednesday, 1 to 5. So just going to pop it in the chat. That's great, Vicky. I can't actually see the chat. Maybe you can see it. Vicky? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on. So why confidence and resilience is a topic? Well, I've mentioned these areas before, and I'm not saying that men don't experience this, they do, but these are themes that run through for women in terms of holding back their career progression, and it's a headwind. So yes, men do have self-limiting beliefs, however, women tend to hold on to them for a bit longer. And what is confidence? Well, confidence is the ability to believe in ourselves, and resilience is being able to bounce back. So just wondering, and just to kind of ask you a question, how does knowing our strengths help us lead with confidence? And if you could put that into the chat, and while you're doing that, I just want to tell you a little story. So this is a story about Daley Thompson, and he's one of the greatest athletes of all time. He ran 10 track and field events, and as you run the events, your points actually build up over the competition. And when he got a new coach for the Olympics, the coach asked him, what do you want to work on? And for Daley Thompson, he said, well, actually, I'm not really very good at the 1500 meters, so I'd like to work on that. Well, and the coach actually said, well, we're not going to work on the 1500 meters. What we're going to do is we're going to work on your 9 strongest events. So there's 10 events. So we're going to work on your 9 strongest events. And by the time you actually get to the 1500 meters, you will have built up enough points to win the competition. So that's what they did. They actually concentrated on his 9 events. By the time he actually got to the last event, all he had to do was get around the track. And he did that, and he won. And sometimes what we do is we focus too much on weaknesses rather than stretching our strengths and building on our strengths. So in terms of our strengths, yes, they help us excel. Yes, they help boost our confidence and resilience, and they enable us to be our authentic self. And on our program, what we do is we work through as an assessment called Strength Scope. It's quite a popular assessment amongst our clients. However, we can use whichever one does most for yourselves. And we can't go through Strength Scope today, but just to ask you and just to think of this as a reflection, in what situations are your peak performance or in the flow? And generally, at these times, it's when time is flying by, we're refocused, we're firing on all cylinders, and essentially we're being energized from what we're doing. And that's when we're really using our strengths. With Strength Scope, what we do with Strength Scope is people get this before the program, and then they do the assessment, they get the report before we come into this session. Participants are shown their 7 significant strengths, and then also 24 strengths and where the clusters. So this particular person has the highest cluster actually in the relational view. And then we do a number of breakout sessions in the program. So we talk about in groups, what learnings have you taken from reflecting on your strength scope. We talk about strengths in overdrive as well, in pairs. And we also talk about essentially dialing down our strengths, because our strengths are fantastic and they're absolutely brilliant and we need to be aware of them. However, on occasions, we can actually overuse them, and they can get an impact on the outcomes that we want for ourselves and for others. So in real life, we'd have a break. This would bring us 75 minutes into the program, and we get everyone together for a bit of an energizer as well. So that's the first part of the morning, and hopefully that's just giving you a bit of an idea and got you thinking. So strengths energize us. And so now we're going to move on to thinking about how we are using our energy. And Vicky is going to take over from here.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah, so much for that. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. And just what's really interesting about what you were just saying about the strengths, sometimes our strengths that we use become, our strong strengths. They can be our bright side for things that are really good, and they're the things that propel us into success, but they can also become our dark side when we get under pressure, we're under a lot of stress, and I suppose, they just get a little bit louder. And Absolutely. It's a great thing to be able to focus on those and to build them. Mm-hmm. So if we talk about energy and boundaries, and of course, we use up a huge amount of energy every day, and a lot of the time we use it on things that are actually not good. But let's look at life stages. Okay, so now we're referring to age here, so no guilt for anybody in terms of the age they're at, but I'm using this model by Donald Super just to get us thinking about different life stages and different roles. And this is often called the life career rainbow. So Donald Super's career model is based on the belief that self-concept changes over time and develops as a result of experience, which I'm sure we have all encountered. So up at the center, we have possible role lives to help us think about the different roles we have at different times of our life. So you can see, obviously, when we're a child, the time and energy that we use relating to our parents, and a lot of time in your early life, there might be an increase in the time you spend looking for elderly parents, looking after them, right? As a student, this is representing the time you're spending studying, so potentially high in early life, but can be throughout our life. And I think more and more now, as we get into, if you like, the second phase of our lives, or even into our 50s, which the Japanese like to call our second flowering, we're taking on more and more of those studies. Also, as a leisureite, this word invented by Donald Super to describe the time that you spend on leisure activities. A citizen, the time and energy you devote to working in the community, your unpaid volunteer work, helping out neighbours. Worker, the time and energy you spend in paid employment. And in some ways, I think this is probably disproportionate, because I think, we're spending more and we're spending longer doing this. Our partners, the time and energy we spend on the relationship, and homemaking. So the spots represent how much time and energy you might spend in each role and at different life stages. So if you think about your life stage, it helps you reflect on whether there's balance and energy in the right places at the right time for each of us. So, we can be in an exploring stage, establishing ourselves, maintaining where we are, feel that we've arrived, and then to start to disengage, which is generally around moving away from paid work. But it doesn't mean that you're necessarily disengaged, right, with work, but you're just starting to move away from that as your focus. So I'm really interested to see where you are as individuals and as a group. you have this couple of minutes to think about, where are you in that rainbow? What's the time that you're spending on each thing? So let's do a poll and see where you are. I'm interested to see that. Yeah, a lot of maintenance and establishment. Yeah. Yeah, exploration.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here building their career experience.
Yeah, and maintenance. And I
Yeah.
suppose a lot in that is, we get into maintenance as well because we're so focused on other areas of our lives and with our families or with parents or all the other things we've going on. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna maintain it. I might like to build it or do more for myself, but I don't see I have the bandwidth. If you do this rainbow for yourself, you might actually see that you might want to bring a different balance back to what you're doing. So, okay, so that's really,
I
sorry.
find Vicky, just say sometimes, we ramp up and we ramp down, I think,
Yeah.
depending on where we are at the lives. I know my children, I have an 8-year-old and I have a son who's 12, but I know from my children were very, very small, I really felt at the time, 6 months old, I felt, I'm just going to maintain my career for the moment. I need this year, for my family. And then when the children got a little bit older, I was able to do more.
Yeah. It's perfect. Okay, so how balanced is your life currently? What is your ideal? So, for me, I had spent a long time raising a family and decided to come back into the workplace, 5 or 6 years ago. And I kind of felt my time was completely full. It was really, really busy with children, with partner, with all of those things. I was like, oh my God, how will I actually fit time in for myself for work? And it's starting to take all of those activities you do then for other people, for me, and start to think, oh, well, actually, I can carve out, there's an extra 45 minutes in the morning. I thought the kids needed me to drop them to school, but actually I was able to stick them on the dart on the train. And I suddenly had an extra 90 minutes in my day to reclaim for myself. And there are tiny things that we can do to start to reclaim time for ourselves in our busy lives. Does that resonate with people? Sure, it must do. So if you start to think about what you're doing, how balanced you are and how balanced your role is and what your ideal life balance would be, sometimes it's helpful to draw it out on a pie chart rather than in circles. So one of the things that we often hear is that when some women think about this, they realize that if they've got caring responsibilities outside of work, that they have absolutely powered down in their careers because they just don't have the bandwidth for everything. They're still doing a really good job, but they're being more giving of themselves, not taking that extra opportunity or added responsibility, just to make sure they have enough energy to go around. So it's not for themselves and they're giving it to somebody else, okay? So, but when that caring starts to reduce, maybe when kids move up to senior school or university, they don't power up again. We fill it with other things. We become used to giving to other people and forget to focus on themselves again. So again, let's do a little poll and see who this resonates with. See what you think about this. Are you in a situation where you feel actually you probably are giving a lot of your own emotional energy to other things other than yourself? So it's interesting to think about that energy. Yeah, a lot of physical energy being used up all the time. Yeah, very much physical. And I'm interested that the emotional seems low because I think a lot of the time, yeah, the mental and emotional, we confuse a bit. It is really, really difficult to keep a positive attitude. Probably feel like we're trying to push upstream all the time. And that, of course, crosses over all the time with our emotional feelings and awareness. So yeah, we are very much, it's physical. I can see you're all in that. And I do think it's really good to see that the energy I'm going to share this, it's like 15% spiritual energy on your personal vision. In some ways that's actually a lot higher than it would have been 10 years ago. But you know what? It's still not as high as you probably would like it to be for yourselves. So it's how do we get to a point where we're reclaiming a little bit more energy and space for ourselves? So what we want to do is we're looking at where we want to spend our time and energy and what options and choices we have to achieve that balance. So having a bit of a time review. Are there time stealers that are prepped in? Ways to rethink what you do. Small example, I've already given it to you, is where, you know, you've got where I've got the kids and I put them on the dart instead of driving them to school. So suddenly reclaim that 30 minutes, or actually getting my kids to do their own laundry, or my partner for that example, right? That's, oh my God, that's an extra hour in the week, right? So it would be great, you know, if we could hear all your examples, we'd all learn loads of different ways to redistribute our energy. But a lot of the time we kind of feel, I can't do this. I can't do things, that I'm not in control of my life. But if you give yourself time to think about where you can push those boundaries a little bit to reclaim something back for yourself. So on the screen, you know, you can see now an exercise that we would do in the workshop. So think about the boundaries that you need to manage to achieve what you want. Pop in the chat any boundaries you feel you have or need to manage and give a personal example. So in the chat, think about a boundary you might need to manage. Are we going to do a little poll on that, are we? No. Okay, guys. The final part of our resilience and energy is how we look after ourselves and keep our energy high. As part of the pre-work, participants complete an energy assessment, which looks at these 4 different areas. And so it looks at, you know, what type of energy are you going to need? I'll talk these through so you can just think about it for yourselves, and let's plot it out. So spiritual energy is really about working on what you do best, fulfilling your values at work and feeling a sense of purpose for what you want to achieve in your life. The physical energy is really about looking after your own body, sleep, exercise, and food. Your emotional energy, attention to how you feel, letting go of negative emotions and striving to get that balance. Mental energy is around being focused, staying positive, mindfulness, being present and in the now. So let's see where everyone is. If we start a poll, Graham, that'd be great. And let's see where you guys consider yourself to be. So are these mindsets or beliefs holding you back at the moment? Imposter syndrome, you know, which we, of course, we all suffer from, right? And as Sheryl Sandberg likes to say, is like, you know, fake it till you make it. The fact is we all suffer from it. Yeah, putting yourself down, afraid to show weakness, perfectionism, excessive worry, intolerance. And of course, you're probably all incredibly tolerant, right? So you don't have intolerance because you're so used to giving. Yeah, excessive worry. So it's kind of equal, I think, in some ways between all of that. They're all around, you know, 25, 30% for imposter syndrome, putting yourself down, excessive worry. They're the results of that. Oh, it failed to show. You see that? So it's interesting to think about, because now you can actually break it down and make small efforts to stop putting yourself down, stop showing weakness, stop being worried about perfectionism, and exhibit some, you know, the vulnerability. So in the real session, this basically brings us up to lunch. So the activity before lunch is to have a walk and talk and reflect on the areas that you need to strengthen away from screens. And this activity is on the worksheet for you to complete, you know, after today. There's an hour for lunch, and so people can take that as they want in terms of having some personal reflection time, or we generally find that people, you know, share lots of stories and have a lot in common with the other people that are on the course. We all have shared experiences in this arena. We aim to have speakers on each workshop, women who like to learn through hearing other stories and experiences, because we identify with them. And usually this is about 45 minutes, and we have another break to stretch the legs. So I'm going to think about, moving back to Sarah now. I'm going to hand back to Sarah, and she's going to talk about mindset and beliefs. There we go. Sarah, are you okay?
Thank you, Vicky. I'm here. Thank you, Vicky. One moment. Okay, great. So just talking about mindsets and beliefs, and these are things that are really, really important for women. Our Elevating Women in Leadership study at LHH did find that women who were successful in advancing their careers had a marked difference in their mindsets and beliefs. So they held the belief that there are no barriers for themselves. There may have been factors all around them that could have prevented their success, but they didn't actually let them hold them back. So they didn't let them get in the way of their own belief that they could accomplish their goals and be successful. So Vicky touched on this, and our poll touched on this as well. So it's worth thinking whether you have beliefs and mindsets that actually help you or hinder you. And we often walk into situations every day where we have unhelpful mindsets, like that meeting's going to be a waste of time, or I'm totally out of my depth on that project, or what would they want me there for, and they can have a huge impact on our confidence, on our presence, and also the perceptions we shape in the eyes of others. So in terms of the mindsets and beliefs that we have is imposter syndrome, the first one, which Vicky mentioned. So just to give you an example of this one, I had this recently when I was working on a new project with someone who had a huge amount of experience. And my first thought was, oh my goodness, they're going to think I'm silly. I don't have near enough experience or as much experience as them. How am I going to add value? Why do they want me here? And I really had to work on that because I knew that that was very unhelpful, right? So I eventually just kind of sat down with myself and I just kind of talked myself out of it, and I switched it around. And I said, look, I'm going to learn something from this experience, and they wouldn't have invited me to be on the project if they didn't think I could contribute to something. So the next thing is putting yourself down. We all do this sometimes. Oh, I'm similar to what part of what I said. Oh, not going to be any good at this, right? And perfectionism. We often aim for perfectionism, and really, I guess what would be more helpful would be to aim for a kind of excellence, really, rather than perfectionism, because nobody's perfect. And excessive worry as well. So sometimes we can think, oh, what if it all goes wrong? And it's kind of like everything's going to be doomed. We can kind of let our imagination really run away with itself. And it's not fact, it's just our imagination running away with ourselves. And then there can also be intolerance of uncertainty as well. When we don't know something, we kind of feel sometimes maybe we need to know everything to be completely confident in what we're doing, which isn't true. We can learn as we go on. And then afraid of showing weakness as well. So maybe being afraid of asking for help, or sometimes we might want to, we don't want people to know that sometimes maybe we don't want people to know that we don't understand something, or we don't have the confidence to actually ask help, I guess, as well. So we've actually run this poll already. This is similar to the one that Vicky ran, and we saw that everybody was very evenly spread out, really, in terms of everybody. These resonated essentially with everybody. So what are we going to do? Answering the poll, the first part of getting to grips really with these things is recognizing limiting beliefs. So actually recognizing that we have them, being honest with ourselves about it. And then how do we let them go? How are we going to overcome them? So a way of doing this is actually to reframe our thoughts. This is one way of doing it. So if we were working in a live group, we would have a discussion about this. But for today, I've created examples, essentially, of reframing. Now, really, the idea is that you find the best way for yourself. It's an important thing to find your own and what works for you. So on your worksheet, if you have that open there, there is actually a piece in your worksheet to work on after the session. on this, to kind of think about your negative thoughts and reframe them into a more positive way of thinking. So as mentioned, in the actual real life session, we have partner discussions whereby we talk about reframing our beliefs and our mindsets and how you can move into a more positive space, and strategies to leverage this as well. And we also have buddy conversations as well. So a part of our program, we at various stages, we break people into pairs and buddies. We walk and talk. We talk about, at this part of the day, we would wrap up and we'd actually send everyone away from the screens to have buddy conversations, share their insights, and come back and talk about what we've learned in the session, how we can apply what we've learned in the session too. So in terms of the next workshop, we've actually come to the end of the session for today. I really hope that it's given you some food for thought, actually, in terms of, you know, how you can actually strengthen your confidence and resilience. We hope that you've gotten some practical tips and some things that you can practice now going into the working week. There is an evaluation. Graham, if you could actually just send that over to participants, and just as you fill out the evaluation poll, I'm going to remind you what's coming up next week. So next week, we're going to be talking about leading, presence and impact. So this is about looking at authenticity, personal brand and promoting ourselves. This is going to be run by Pauline Muldoon, who is a senior executive coach, eWill consultant, facilitator, and myself. And if you're looking for some homework, essentially, just to kind of get yourself thinking a little bit about next week, maybe go out and find maybe 5 people that you know and ask them for, or even 2 people that you know, and ask them for 5 words that describe you. And that will kind of lead nicely into leading with presence and impact workshop. So we'd like to do that session, a little bit of homework there before our next session. And also we recommend that you keep the buddy conversations going. So I know at the start of the program, we talked about if you have, if you're doing these sessions for your own personal development, find a buddy to talk about what comes up for you within the sessions. Or if you have a development group, if you've started a development group or interested in getting a development group together, we know that it's highly beneficial for women to get support from each other. That's what we've learned from running these programs. They have a really high impact, and if there's something really unique about women creating something for other women and supporting other women. So we'd recommend that you continue on with your development groups. If you've started one up, or if you haven't started one up, it's no time like the present, you could get going on that if you wish. So I really hope that this has given you a flavour of how we deliver our programs, as well as started you thinking really about your own career, your career journey, and how to improve your confidence and resilience at work. So just to also mention that some of you have actually asked if we are running any open programs, and we are running an open program in September. So if you're interested in joining us on that, just contact us at ewill@lhh.com, and we'd be very, very happy to answer your questions. In the meantime, Vicky and I are going to hang on for 10 minutes. And if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them. If you're leaving us now, we'd like to say thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We hope that you got some learning and development from this session. You found it useful, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Lovely to, well, I won't say to meet everybody, but thank you for joining us, and it was a real pleasure. I do recognize some of the names on the participant list, so really good to see you.